The morning sunlight slipped through the half-open curtains, painting golden lines across the bedroom walls. It was quiet, calm, and peaceful, the kind of morning I usually loved. But that day felt different. It was our 5th wedding anniversary, and I wanted everything to be perfect. I'm Ethan Miller, a 33-year-old architect from Seattle, Washington. My wife, Sophie, and I had been together for almost 8 years, married for 5. She's a school teacher, smart, kind, and the most caring person I've ever known. At least, that's what I believed until that day began unfolding in a way I never expected. I woke up early to make breakfast for her, blueberry pancakes, her favorite. The smell of coffee filled the room as I arranged everything neatly on a tray. I even added a small box, a silver necklace I had bought weeks earlier. When Sophie walked into the kitchen, her hair still messy from sleep, she looked at the food and smiled faintly. But something in her expression told me her mind was elsewhere. "Good morning," I said cheerfully. "Happy anniversary, Soph." She blinked, then looked at me, confused. "Anniversary?" My heart sank a little. "Yeah, our 5th anniversary. You didn't forget, did you?" She laughed awkwardly, tucking her hair behind her ear. "Oh, Ethan, I didn't forget, I just thought, you probably would." Her tone was strange, playful but distant. Before I could say anything, she grabbed a slice of pancake and ate silently. I kept watching her, trying to understand what was wrong. "Are you okay?" I asked softly. She nodded, smiling briefly. "Yeah, I'm fine, just tired. I might go out with the girls later today. You know, a little break." Something twisted in my chest. "On our anniversary? It's just dinner," she said quickly. "We'll celebrate tomorrow, okay?" I forced a smile, trying not to show my disappointment. "Sure, tomorrow." She kissed my cheek lightly and went to get ready. I sat at the table, staring at the untouched coffee cup I had poured for her. Something didn't feel right. The day passed slowly. At work, I couldn't focus on anything. My colleague and best friend, Ryan, noticed immediately. "You look distracted, man," he said as we reviewed blueprints. I sighed. It's our anniversary today, and Sophie decided to hang out with her friends instead. Ryan frowned. "That's weird. You two always do something special." "Exactly," I said, but she seemed distant. "I don't know how to explain it." He shrugged. "Maybe she's just stressed." "Don't jump to conclusions." I wanted to believe that. I really did, but deep inside, something told me this wasn't just stress. When I got home that evening, the apartment was quiet. Sophie wasn't there. Her perfume lingered faintly in the air, a floral scent mixed with something new I hadn't noticed before. On the counter, there was a small note: "Don't wait up for me. I'll be late. Love you." My chest tightened. I sat down on the couch, staring at that piece of paper for what felt like hours. I trusted her. I always had. But lately, she'd been glued to her phone, smiling at messages she never shared, leaving the room to take calls, and spending more nights out with friends. They were walking side by side, overthinking, close, but tonight, close. Something inside me couldn't let her laugh again. Around 9 p.m., I decided to go for a drive. She didn't move away. The city lights blurred through my windshield as I drove past familiar streets, on the steering wheel, trying to clear my mind. I could have confronted them right eventually, there, but I ended up near Lake Union. I just watched as they walked to her favorite spots, talking softly, unaware that I was sitting only a few feet away. That's when I saw her car, parked outside a quiet rooftop she got into her car. My heart began to pound until she drove off. I told myself it could be a coincidence, not out of anger, maybe her friends had confusion and heartbreak. Maybe she was really just hanging out. I parked a few spaces away and sat there for a while, 10 minutes, watching from a distance. Finally drove back. Then I saw her when she entered walking out of the restaurant. She looked perfectly calm, as if nothing had happened. She was with Daniel, a few minutes one later. Of her colleagues from the school where she worked, scrolling through her phone. "Hey," she said, smiling lightly. "You're back early." "Yeah," I replied, trying to sound normal. "How was your dinner?" "It was good," she said. "The girls and I had a great time." Something in me broke quietly. I nodded, forcing a smile. "I'm glad. That night, as she fell asleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind spinning with questions. I wanted to ask her the truth, but I didn't want to accuse her unfairly. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I saw it wrong. But the next few days didn't help. She became even more distant, spending more time on her phone, hiding her screen whenever I walked by. I finally decided I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. One evening, I waited for her to come home. I set the necklace box on the table, the one I had meant to give her on our anniversary. When she walked in, she looked surprised. "What's this?" "Just open it," I said. She lifted the lid and stared at the silver necklace. "Ethan, it's beautiful. I bought it for our anniversary," I said quietly. "You know, the one we didn't celebrate." Her smile faded. "Ethan, please don't make this complicated." "I'm not trying to," I said, keeping my tone calm. "But I saw you that night. You weren't with your friends. You were with Daniel." Her eyes widened. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she looked away, tears welling up. "It's not what you think," she whispered. "Then tell me what it is." She hesitated. "Daniel was just someone I talked to. Things have been difficult between us lately. I just needed someone to listen." My voice cracked. "So you went out with him on our anniversary?" She wiped her tears. "You've been so busy with work, Ethan. I feel like we don't talk anymore. I didn't mean to hurt you." I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. "You could have talked to me, Sophie. You didn't need someone else." She looked down, ashamed. "I know. I'm sorry." The room was silent for a long time. I didn't yell, and she didn't defend herself further. We just sat there, two people who once promised forever, now unsure if forever still meant anything. That night, she slept on the couch. I stayed awake, staring out the window, wondering where things had gone wrong. The next morning, Sophie woke up early and left for work before I even opened my eyes. Usually, she'd kiss me goodbye or leave a note, but not that day. The silence in the apartment felt heavy, almost painful. I sat on the couch, staring at the necklace box still lying open on the table. The sparkle of the silver chain seemed dull now, lifeless, just like the warmth between us. I couldn't focus on work that day. Every message notification made me think it might be her, trying to fix things, but none came. Around noon, Ryan stopped by my office. "You okay, man?" he asked, sitting across from me. "You look like you haven't slept." "I haven't," I admitted. "Things are rough between Sophie and me." "Did you talk to her?" "Yeah, she said nothing's going on with Daniel, but," I sighed, rubbing my face. "I don't know if I can believe that." Ryan looked thoughtful. "Sometimes, when people drift apart, they look for comfort in the wrong places. Doesn't mean they stopped loving you. Maybe she just needs a wake-up call." His words stayed with me the whole day. Maybe he was right. Maybe Sophie was just lost in the noise of life, and we both stopped trying to listen to each other. That night, when I came home, Sophie was sitting in the living room. She looked tired, her eyes red like she'd been crying. "Ethan," she said softly, "we need to talk." I nodded and sat down across from her. "I don't know how to start," she said, her voice trembling. "Then start with the truth," I said quietly. She took a deep breath. "You're right. I wasn't with the girls that night. I met Daniel, but not for the reasons you think. I needed advice." "Advice?" I repeated. "About what?" She hesitated, looking down at her hands. "About us. About how distant we've become. I didn't know how to fix it anymore. Daniel, he's easy to talk to. He listens. But nothing happened, Ethan." I swear, my heart wanted to believe her, but my mind wasn't ready yet. "Why didn't you come to me instead?" "Because every time I tried, you were too busy," she whispered. "You'd come home late, exhausted, and fall asleep on the couch." I felt invisible. I leaned back, her words sinking in deeper than I expected. "You could have told me that. You didn't need to lie." "I know," she said, tears filling her eyes again. I was wrong. But Ethan, I love you. I never stopped. I just got lost. I wanted to stay angry, but seeing her cry broke something inside me. For years, she had stood by me through thick and thin. Maybe I had taken her presence for granted. Sophie, I said, my voice softening, if you still want this, then we have to rebuild the trust we lost. Together. She nodded quickly. I do. I want that more than anything. For the first time in weeks, she reached for my hand, and I didn't pull away. We sat there quietly, both of us realizing how far we had drifted but also how much we still cared. Over the next few days, things slowly began to change. We started eating dinner together again, talking about small things, work, memories, plans for the weekend. She even surprised me by packing my lunch for work, just like she used to. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. One evening, as we walked by Lake Union, Sophie said, "Do you remember the first time you brought me here?" I smiled faintly. Yeah, you spilled coffee on me and blamed the wind. She laughed, wiping away a tear. You still wore that shirt the next day. Because it smelled like your perfume, I said. We both laughed, but deep down, it felt like a piece of us was slowly healing. Still, I couldn't ignore the lingering doubt. One night, as she showered, her phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from Daniel. My chest tightened. I didn't want to look, but my curiosity won. The message read, "Glad things are better between you and Ethan. You deserve happiness." My hands shook as I read it again. No hidden meaning, no flirtation, just simple words of closure. I exhaled slowly, realizing that maybe, for once, she was telling. I exhaled slowly, realizing that maybe, for once, she was telling the truth. The next morning, I placed her phone back exactly where it was and decided to let it go. If I wanted to save my marriage, I had to start trusting again. Months passed, and slowly, life felt normal again. Sophie was smiling more, spending less time on her phone, and our conversations weren't forced anymore. We even started planning a small trip to Portland for our next anniversary. One night, as we sat on the balcony watching the city lights, she turned to me and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I looked at her, feeling the weight of everything we had gone through. We made a promise, Soph. Marriage isn't about being perfect, it's about not walking away when things get hard. She leaned against my shoulder. I'll never forget that again. I smiled and held her hand tightly. The road ahead wasn't easy, but I knew we were walking it together. Love, after all, wasn't about avoiding storms, it was about learning to dance in the rain. That night, as the cool Seattle breeze touched our faces, I realized something important. Forgiveness doesn't erase pain, but it rebuilds love stronger than before. And maybe, just maybe, that was the gift we both needed all along. Weeks passed, and things between Sophie and me started feeling almost like old times. We laughed again, cooked together, and even went out for weekend drives like we used to. But deep down, I knew that real healing takes more than moments, it takes consistency and trust. I still had nights when I'd wake up and stare at her, wondering if she really meant all those words about wanting to fix us. Then one Friday evening, while we were having dinner, Sophie said something that took me by surprise. "Ethan, my school is organizing a short teachers' retreat next weekend. It's just 2 days, Friday to Sunday. I'll be back before dinner." My mind froze for a second. That same feeling of unease that I thought had disappeared suddenly crept back. I tried to smile. "That sounds good," I said, trying not to sound suspicious. "Where is it?" "Up near Spokane," she said. "Daniel and a few others are going too. It's a professional event, I promise." Her honesty about Daniel's name caught me off guard. Maybe she was trying to rebuild the trust by not hiding anything. "Okay," I said calmly. "Just keep me updated, all right?" She smiled with relief. Of course. When the weekend came, I drove her to the bus point myself. She kissed my cheek and said, "Don't worry, I'll call when I reach." I nodded and waved as the bus left. For most of the first day, I distracted myself with work and met Ryan for coffee. But late that night, while scrolling through social media, I saw a photo someone had posted from the retreat, a group selfie. Sophie was there, smiling naturally, sitting beside a few teachers, and yes, Daniel was in the photo too. They weren't touching or too close, just sitting in the same group. My heart felt heavy but calmer than before. I realized something then: trust isn't about never having doubts, it's about choosing not to let them control you. I closed my phone and decided to let her have her space. The next morning, she called me. "Hey," she said cheerfully, "I just wanted to say good morning." I smiled softly. "Morning. How's the retreat?" "Busy but nice. We're doing group projects and outdoor sessions. You'd love this place." "I'm glad you're enjoying," I said. "Just take care of yourself." "Always," she said warmly before hanging up. When she came back home that Sunday evening, she looked peaceful. "It was great," she said as she unpacked. "I think I really needed that break." "I can tell," I said with a smile. "You seem lighter." She laughed. Maybe I finally stopped overthinking. For the first time in months, her laughter didn't sound forced, it was real, warm, familiar. That night, we had dinner together, talking about little things, her students, my new project, the funny incidents at the retreat. Sophie was there, smiling naturally, sitting beside a few teachers, and yes, Daniel was in the photo too. They weren't touching or too close, just sitting in the same group. My heart felt heavy but calmer than before. I realized something then: trust isn't about never having doubts, it's about choosing not to let them control you. I closed my phone and decided to let her have her space. The next morning, she called me. "Hey," she said cheerfully, "I just wanted to say good morning." I smiled softly. "Morning. How's the retreat?" "Busy but nice. We're doing group projects and outdoor sessions. You'd love this place." "I'm glad you're enjoying," I said. "Just take care of yourself." "Always," she said warmly before hanging up. When she came back home that Sunday evening, she looked peaceful. "It was great," she said as she unpacked. "I think I really needed that break." "I can tell," I said with a smile. "You seem lighter." She laughed. Maybe I finally stopped overthinking. For the first time in months, her laughter didn't sound forced, it was real, warm, familiar. That night, we had dinner together, talking about little things, her students, my new project, the funny incidents at the retreat. There was no tension, no hidden silence. It felt like we had finally found our way back to each other. But life has its ways of testing you again when you least expect it. A week later, I got an anonymous email at work. The subject line read, "Do you really believe she changed?" My heart pounded as I opened it. Inside was a blurry picture: Sophie standing near a lake, smiling, Daniel standing beside her, handing her a coffee cup. Nothing inappropriate, but enough to make my mind spiral. For a moment, I felt anger boiling inside me again. But then I stopped. I looked at the picture carefully. There was nothing romantic or suggestive about it. It was simply two colleagues sharing coffee during a retreat. I took a deep breath and deleted the email. That night, when Sophie got home, I didn't mention it. Instead, I hugged her from behind while she cooked. She froze for a moment, surprised, then turned around and smiled softly. "What's that for?" "For everything," I said quietly. "For staying. For trying." She looked up at me with teary eyes. "Ethan, you have no idea how much that means." I kissed her forehead. "We're both learning, Soph. Let's not let the past decide our future." She nodded, holding my hand. From that day on, things truly began to change. Sophie deleted Daniel's number on her own. She said she wanted to focus only on us, and I appreciated that, not because I asked her to, but because she wanted to. Months later, we took that trip to Portland we had planned before everything went wrong. We walked through bookshops, watched the sunset at the riverfront, and laughed like we hadn't in years. One evening, as we sat in a cozy cafe, Sophie reached across the table, held my hand, and said, "You know what I realized? Love isn't just about falling for someone. It's about staying, even when it's hard." I smiled. "Yeah, and it's about remembering what made you fall in love in the first place." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "You never stopped believing in me."